You ever hear a baby crying in the woods where no one lives? I did. Out in Alaska. Just three of us, a dog that wasn't ours, and something in the water calling our names like it already knew our secrets. We thought it was training, just another cold, wet mission. But the tracks around our camp didn't stay otter. They stretched, widened, turned human, circling where I slept. That's when I learned some things out here don't want you dead. They want you changed. The locals call it the Kushtaka, Land Otter Man, a shapeshifter. But me? I still can't figure out what the hell I lived through on those nights. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel and comment down below where you're watching from. Thanks. I am going to tell you a thing I tried to drink away. Didn't work. Maybe saying it plain will. We were three. Me, Hernandez, and Doc Elkins. Three grunts playing search and rescue for a training lane near the water, out by a small Tlingit village that was mostly empty. Moss-eating old planks, totem poles leaning like busted spears. Southeast Alaska. Green that never ends. Rain sneaking into everything. The sort of wet that gets in under your skin and builds a home. We came in on trucks as far as the beat-up logging road went. Then we rocked. Light packs, they told us. That was a lie. Radio gear, batteries, a med bag that weighed like guilt, tarps, stoves, a little coil of copper wire the Como guys said we could use to clean contacts, a handful of old pennies I kept out of habit. Saw a trick once where you rub the corrosion off with coins. Not doctrine, just grunt science. We were supposed to sweep to a creek mouth, check a beacon, check the shore, mark a clear spot for a bird if weather broke. Training on paper. Elaine. Move. Observe. Observe. Report. Take a knee. Hydrate. Breathe. Felt good in that stupid way. Feet in mud, brain on rails. Top gave us the speech on the road before we stepped. Keep eyes out for bears. Keep your muzzle down. Don't shoot the locals. Don't drink anything they offer in a jar. If you find a body, don't say dumb things. Use your radio. Don't get cute with the tide. Roger Top, we said, because that's the ritual. The village had a few lights, a generator somewhere. A dog barked twice and went quiet. We cut left into the trees, following the creek like it was a string in a dark attic. It was one of those slow evenings where the sky forgets how to be blue and just turns to wet wool. I walked point. Hernandez behind me, yawning like a seal. Doc last. He hummed off and on, pop songs. Church stuff he never admitted. He wore an old copper bracelet his grandma gave him. Said it helped with his wrists. We roasted him for that until he stopped caring. We moved simple. Step, stop, listen. Step, stop, listen. The radio hissed every now and then, like it was clearing its throat to tell a joke it forgot. Normal, boring, good. We cut camp at the edge of a gravel bar by the creek. We had water. We had trees tight enough to throw up a tarp. We had the sort of sand that eats heat quick. Still, it would do. We ate. We talked the way guys talk when they don't know if they'll sleep. Stories about dumb privates. Stories about dumb sergeants. MRE jokes. Hernandez swore he saw northern lights once over Fairbanks, colors like gasoline on a puddle. Doc rolled his eyes and said, yes, we all have the internet. We know the sky does tricks. No one talked about the wood carvings we saw on the way in. Faces with long mouths. Eyes too round. Teeth sharp for things that aren't fish. No one talked about the way the creek sounded like whispering behind a door. Normal. That's what we told ourselves. The first off note came quiet. Just a sound. Baby small. Like a kitten trying to be brave. Hernandez froze. Hear that, dog, I said. Or a fox. Their voices crack like that. Doc shook his head. There aren't foxes here. I didn't know if that was true. I didn't want it to be a baby, not out there. We listened harder. Rain on tarp. Creek clawing gravel. The sound came again. Farther left, a little higher. Two notes, like a hiccup and a wheeze. Coyote, Hernandez said. They copy babies. It's a thing. Coyotes don't live on this island, Doc said. Hernandez frowned. Everything lives here, including God's other mistakes. We laughed, but it was thin. Later, I went to piss at the tree line. Somewhere in the branches, a raven spoke the word hello in a voice that wasn't a bird. Not right. Not parrot. Like a throat full of water. I zipped up quick. Back at the fire, Doc pulled out his copper bracelet and wiped the green stains off his skin with a sock. "Copper leeches," he muttered. "Grandma said it pulls sickness out." Hernandez jabbed a stick into the flames. "She also say you're handsome?" "Every day," Doc said. He held the bracelet near the fire like he was trying to warm his bones. On the radio, a word slipped through the hiss that I swear sounded like my name. I said nothing. Because nothing was wrong. Because this was a training lane. Because the creek was just water, and the trees were just trees, and the little sound was just some animal being weird. You can smell a lie when it comes out of your own mouth. It smells like battery acid and cold iron. We put on night vision, and the world turned into a bruise. The green flickered every so often, like a dying bug. We took turns on watch. The hours were slow and heavy. At some point, the dog from the village came limping out of the dark, ribs like fingers, tail down. He just stood at the edge of our light and stared into the trees with a low growl like a small engine. He wouldn't come to us, wouldn't take jerky, just washed and growled, then leaned and pissed a long line on the gravel as if painting something we couldn't see. "Smart dog," Doc said. We didn't sleep much after that. We found prints in the morning where there had been only our own. That's how it starts. Small things. Details that tug at your sleeve. They were in the sand not 10 steps from the tarp. Wet marks. Not fresh, but not old either. Not rain-washed. They came up from the creek like dark commas and wandered around our camp like a drunk was looking for his keys. I crouched. The first few were little. Otter prints, I thought. Webbed. 5 toes. Then they got longer. Wider. The heel shape crept in. Human, but narrow, no arch. No shoe treads. Barefoot, but not. The toes looked wrong. Too pointed. As if nails had left digs at the tip of each. They circled our fire. They circled our bags. They stopped at where I slept. For a second, I thought I could see where something curled around and leaned close to smell me. "Bear," Hernandez offered. Doc made a face. "Bears don't have toes like that." "Drifter," I said. "Some tweaker squatting those shacks." "Barefoot in this cold?" Doc asked. I stood and looked at the creek. It was shallow here. A foot deep, clear as glass. The far bank slicked with weeds and fallen leaves. The prints walked into the water and were gone, like it thought about it and decided to be river instead. We did what you do. We made a joke of it. We said, "Ha, Alaska weird." We said, "Probably teenagers." We packed faster than usual. The radio beeped as we moved. I kept hearing my name soft between the noise, but when I asked it, they heard it. The guys shift their heads. I don't like admitting this part, but I will. The trees felt like a crowd. Like people turned sideways, holding their breath, trying not to be seen. Every time I stepped, I thought I was stepping on something that might grab back. We moved to the beacon. It was an orange can up a little rise, metal pitted, with stickers of agencies stacked like a bad tattoo sleeve. We took readings. We reported in. The bird was a no-go for weather. We had to hold a day, maybe 2. The creek mouth was our best exfil. The village was a mile down the shore. We could hump in if it got stupid. Easy, no drama. From the rise I could see the bay, dark water with a skin of wind on it. Islands like hunched backs. Far out I saw a shape roll and splash. Otter, I told myself. Just a fat one with a crab. But the head that tilted up had a face too long and eyes that flashed like someone was pointing a mirror. "Seals," Hernandez said, squinting. "Yeah," I said, "seals." The dog was back. We hadn't seen him follow. He was there at my heel like he'd grown out of the moss, and he was staring at the same spot I was. He had his lips pulled back enough that I could see yellow teeth. He had a patch on his side where the hair had been torn out long ago. The skin there looked like clay. "He got a name?" I asked. Doc shrugged. "Dog." "Okay then." I scratched his ear. He didn't look at me. His ears were pinned hard. He leaned against my leg like he was pushing me toward the fire we didn't have. We went back to the gravel bar. We made a bigger fire, no cause. Just felt right. The little coil of copper wire came out. I looped some around the radio's whip, habit. The pennies in my pocket felt heavy as stones. Doc came back from the trees and said, "You guys hear that?" "Hear what?" Laughing, he said, "Like a woman trying not to wake a baby." Hernandez threw more wood on the fire than he needed. Locals, where? I asked. He nodded at the woods, which is the same as nodding at the whole world. We didn't talk for a while. That night, the radio brought us a voice that sounded exactly like our platoon leader, the butter bar. Soft voice, too polite. He called me by my last name. Used the words he always used. How copy, he said. Say again. It would have been reassuring, except the bird was still grounded, and we were in a dead spot and he wasn't out there. How copy, he said again. How copy, how copy. I raised the handset and pushed the button and felt stupid. Copy, I said. We hear you. Static. Then, good. Good to hear you. A pause. A pause. Step closer to the water. I can't hear you. Doc put his hand on my wrist and lowered the radio without looking away from the trees. Don't, he said. Please. We didn't answer. The voice cleared its throat with wet sound and tried again, brighter. Sergeant, it said. This is your lieutenant. Step to the waterline. We are trying to triangulate. No one spoke. Hernandez slowly took the batteries out of the radio and put them in his pocket. The voice kept talking for a while, saying our names like it was tasting them, asking us to come closer, asking us to help, asking us why we were being mean. I don't scare easy. I'm not saying that to flex. It's just old truth. But that made my hands shake because it wasn't guessing. It knew. It knew the way a thing knows after it's crawled into your mouth while you slept and read your teeth with its tongue. We started doing stupid little things because we didn't know what else to do. We pissed a line around the camp like that village dog had done. We fed the fire like it was a fourth guy who needed food. We took the copper we had and made small hoops and hung them off the tarp edges so they clicked when the wind moved. We laughed at ourselves because if you don't laugh, you start thinking too much. Sometime deep in the dark, the dog went from a low rumble to a full howl. He faced the creek, every hair alive. The howl wasn't pretty, it was a siren. It made my stomach go tight like a fist was sinking in. The creek answered with a splash that didn't fit the depth and a sound like someone beating on a metal sheet underwater. Then the baby started, not one, not even two, a dozen, maybe more, all along the trees on both banks, crying, stopping, laughing, asking for mama in voices that stumbled on the word. Doc started to cry without meaning to, tears straight down his face like the rain had found a new path. I can't, he said. I can't listen to that. I can't. Headphones, I said. Put in your damn headphones. He did, hands shaking. His knuckles were white. He turned on some old church song under his breath, and his lips moved with it even after he pulled the buds back out. A branch fell behind us with a crack like a rifle. I swung, and the night vision flickered like a bad fluorescent. Between the trees, something moved upright and fast, and then dropped on all fours like it remembered how to be that shape. It was small, then it was tall, then it was river again. It made no sense, so my brain made excuses. A bear. A drunk. Fog. All of it wrong. Hernandez swore he saw his daughter between the trunks. She'd been 3 when he left for this rotation. Hair and a little bun, wearing his old unit shirt like a dress. She beckoned with both hands and smiled with too many teeth. He took a step. The dog hit his thigh with its shoulder hard enough to stagger him. He blinked, and the girl wasn't there. Just ferns with rain shaking off them. Thank you, he whispered to the mud, and I think the dog understood because he leaned once more. The radio woke up on its own. No batteries. A voice that wasn't our lieutenant and wasn't anyone, and still it sounded like someone we loved. For me, it was my brother. He's dead. Died stupid. Drunk in water in a snowmobile years back. The voice had his little laugh. Had the way he sucked air when he was about to tell a story. Had the way he said my first name like he was about to ask me for a favor I would give no matter what. Hey, it said. Open up. You okay? You cold? Come down. I can show you a warm place. Right by the rocks where the current eddies. You don't even have to swim. Just step in. It's easy. I shut the radio in my pack and sat on the pack and held the straps like they were reins. The dog stopped howling and started doing that deep bark dogs do when something is too close and too wrong. He was looking at the far bank between 2 alders. I looked too. There was an otter there. or something with that shape. Except it wasn't playful. It held itself too still. Face too pointed, whiskers long like burned wires. It watched us the way a man looks at a jar he can't open. It had hands, not paws. Hands with web between the fingers and nails like wet knives. When the fire popped, it flinched back. When the wind hit the copper hoop and made it click ring, its head snapped like it hated the sound. Dot breathed, "Land Otter Man," like he wasn't supposed to say it out loud. "Shut up," I said. Not because I didn't believe him, because belief felt like an open door. Hernandez shook his head hard like he was trying to clear water out. "It's just some sick animal." "Okay," I said. "Then we'll use the tools we got." We put the copper bracelet into the coals with the pennies. We heated them until they were too hot to pick up with our fingertips. We used sticks to pull them out and hang them on paracord around our necks. Not smart. Not sterile. Not the way anyone with a brain would do it. But fear makes you dumb and brave the same way. Doc had the idea to crimp pieces of the copper wire onto the ends of our bootlaces. Little tassels. He tied one to the dog's collar. We heard old stories in basic, not these ones. Different ones. The kind where sometimes stupid things work and sometimes they don't, but you do them anyway because the doing is what keeps you from freezing. The Otter Man slid back into the creek like oil under a door. The babies went quiet. The trees breathed again. We stared at each other with faces I have only seen during thunderstorms and funerals. Then, at dawn's faint gray, we made the mistake. We split. That's the mistake in every story like this. If you told this to me in a bar, I'd tell you to shut up and keep your people together. But we were tired and the fire was low and the radio needed higher ground and the creek had turned into a maze of side channels in the night. The dog couldn't be everywhere. We were dumb with sleep and thinking we were pro. We sent Hernandez up the rise to try for a line of sight and a check-in. He went because he was good at climbing through brush. He went because he kept hearing his daughter anyway and needed to move to burn it out of his legs. He went because I told him to. That's the part I keep waking up to. I said go, he said Roger. Doc and I stayed to keep the fire honest. We boiled water for coffee that tasted like pennies. The sun tried to rise and failed. The sky was the color of dirty wool again. Hernandez didn't answer on the radio when he should have. We waited. We called. We told ourselves he was just changing batteries. We told ourselves 100 lies in a row until they formed a raft. When he came back down the slope, he was smiling. That's how we knew. Our boy never smiled in the morning. "Bird's coming," he said. "We're good." Doc and I looked at each other and didn't move. Because bad news carries a smell. This was good news, and still it stank like old fish. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah," he said. "Lieutenant says get to the creek mouth. He's got eyes on a weather hole. Step to the water so we can guide the pilot. Easy in, easy out." Doc stood up and took one step closer to the fire like he wanted to climb inside. "What's your daughter's name?" he asked. Hernandez blinked slow. "You're the medic." "You know, what is it?" Doc said again, voice flat like he was calling cadence. Hernandez laughed the wrong way. The sound came from too deep and too wide at once. "Don't be weird, Doc. You told me yesterday you missed her bun," Doc said. "The little bun on top. You said she fiddles with the elastic. What color is it?" Silence. The dog growled without showing teeth. The copper wire on his collar made a small music in the wind. Hernandez's head tilted, curious, like a raven figuring out a latch. He looked at the bracelet around Doc's neck and the pennies and the little copper barb on my laces, and his smile went thinner. "Not gone. Just pulled tight like a drum. Step away from the fire," he said, too gentle. "You're making it hard to hear." Doc lifted the kettle off the coals. His hands were steady now. He poured the water slow onto the copper bracelet still in the edge of the fire. Steam snapped. The air smelled like pennies and thunder. Hernandez flinched like he'd been hit. For just a second, I saw something move under his skin, sideways, like fur trying to find the right direction. "Okay," I said, and it wasn't my voice either. It was the voice I used when privates got to the edge of a cliff and didn't know it yet. "Back up." He didn't. He took one more step in. Not fast, not slow. Testing. The dog went from growl to bark to a lunge. He hit Hernandez on the thigh and bit down like he meant it. The sound that came out of Hernandez's mouth didn't belong to a man, or any animal I've known. It was like a flute made out of a throat. Doc threw copper pennies at his face like they were holy, stupid, desperate. Two stuck to wet skin under one eye. Steam came where they touched. He screamed and grabbed them with hands that weren't right anymore. Long web between the fingers, nails pulling long as if they were tired of hiding. He tore the pennies free and threw them into the creek, and the sound they made hitting the water was wrong too. Deep, like the creek had more under it than it should. He stumbled back and smiled wide again, full of too many teeth and the wrong ones in the wrong places. "Just step to the water," he said softly. "Please, please just help me. I'm cold." Doc had tears running again, but his face was hard. "Where's the real you?" he asked, voice like gravel. "Where is he?" The thing tilted its head. The dog shook blood off his muzzle and stood between us and it with hackles up. "Saved," the thing said finally. "Not dead. Don't be mad. Saved." That word sat in my gut like a nail. I had heard it before. Grandma stories. Yeehaw campfire lies. Up here the land is big and the sea is colder than hell, and there are tales about things that pull you in before you can freeze. They say it saves you. They say it makes you one. Mixed blessing, someone once said, which is a fancy way to say it's a rescue that steals your name. "What do you want?" I asked. It smiled sad. "Company," it said. "You hate the cold. I hate being alone." The babies started again in the trees. Not a dozen this time. 100. 1,000. All from one throat that had learned a trick and was drunk on the sound of it. Doc grabbed my sleeve. "Rules," he whispered. "Every monster's got rules. Fire, copper, dogs, urine." He coughed a small laugh. "We did 3. Do the 4th, I guess." We did. We pissed another line, stupid as it felt. The dog, bless him, understood and added to it with nose high and dignity intact. The thing wearing our friend didn't blink. It just kept asking. The radio came alive inside my pack and begged me in my brother's voice to help. To step. To stop being mean. The pennies smoked on the edge of the fire like they wanted to run. We had to move. We couldn't stay pinned under voices until our minds split. We couldn't follow it to the creek. We couldn't shoot it because I don't think bullets we had would matter. And if they did, what would we be killing? My friend. A thing that called itself saved? So we did what soldiers do. We made a plan that was 2 parts dumb and 1 part mean. We packed for speed we didn't have. We threw out extras. We tied copper on everything metal like we were dressing idols. We took our fire with us, not all. Just a pan of coals in the bottom of a mess tin, punched full of holes, wrapped in green shoots so it wouldn't cook our hands. It smoked when we moved. It left a trail like a snail. We aimed for the village, for people, for dogs tied under porches, for the stink of diesel and the comfort of another voice that wasn't trying to sweet-talk us into a tomb. The thing that wore our friend followed at an angle. Not close, not far, reading us, studying our pace. It walked wrong when it forgot. Hands came too far forward. Feet flopped like fins unless it concentrated. It stayed on the far side of the creek. It spoke now and then, saying nothing that should matter, all of it knives. "I found a crab," it would call in Hernandez's voice. "It's big. Come see." Or, "Doc, your grandma says hello." Or, "To me, brother, you were supposed to watch me. You were supposed to keep me from doing stupid." I kept my eyes on the dog's tail. He didn't look back. He had his nose up, reading the air, head high like a mast. The forest tightened. Spruce thick. Devil's club like spears with leaves that held water that ran down your sleeves and made your skin itch. The creek narrowed and sped up. We had to cross little side channels on slick logs that wanted to throw us. The fire pan hissed every time a drop hit it. The baby started again, and then shifted mid-cry into 3 women laughing. Then into the sound of my mother calling me for dinner from a porch we never had. Then into Top's grumble telling us to pick up the pace. It was like being caught in a radio net that couldn't pick a frequency. "Do not answer," I said. Even to make a joke. "Do not answer." "Roger," Doc said. His mouth was a straight line. He kept touching the copper around his neck like someone saying a rosary with coins. We passed a place where the ground gave out and turned to peat, muskeg, a floating thing pretending to be land. You step, it sinks, it drinks your foot, it gives it back if it's in a mood. The dog danced across like a ghost. We took long, slow steps, spreading our weight, following his prints. Halfway through, the radio voice shifted to something small. "Help," it said, a perfect little girl's whisper. I fell. Hernandez jerked like a fish. He had always wanted more kids. He swallowed hard without meaning to. The not Hernandez smiled with just the edge of his mouth where it thought we couldn't see. We made the far side with shoes that weighed twice what they had. I wanted to set them on fire and walk on melted soles. In a notch between two hills, we found an old logging track, gray boards pushing up through moss-like ribs. There were copper nails hammered into some, gone green. Windfall trees had crushed parts. We walked on the spine of it because the ground on either side looked hungry. Doc stopped and pointed at the nails. "Copper," he said. Someone knew a thing. I took my knife and pried one free slow. The board groaned like a tired man. The nail came out with flakes like old blood. I wrapped it into our copper wire bundle like I was unknotting a curse. We smelled the village before we saw it. Wood smoke, diesel, fish, dogs. The knot. Hernandez slowed. He looked toward the smell and then back at us. He wasn't smiling now. The babies' voices got fainter, like we were walking deeper into wind that pushed them back. And then, like always happens when you think you're going to make it, the ground decided otherwise. We crossed one last little channel, a log that looked friendly. My foot went out. I went into my knee and then my hip, and then it wasn't shallow anymore. The creek ate me whole in a second like it had been waiting. Cold. Not like ice in a drink. Not like wind on your face. Cold that went under your ribs and grabbed your heart. Cold that said, "You will be mine now, and you will float here and look up through glass until the moss grows over your eyes." I kicked. I grabbed for the log. The current said, "Cute," and turned me like a kid in a slow dance. I saw sky, trees, Doc's face a green skull through night vision I hadn't even flipped down. The dog's bark turned mean. The knot, Hernandez's head appeared above me, upside down like a bat, mouth open in a laugh. I saw his teeth change as I watched. Finer. Closer. Saw a flash of web thick as a duck's foot between his fingers as he reached. Not to help, to pull me to wherever it had saved him. Doc did the dumbest, bravest thing of the day. He jumped in after me with one hand still on the fire pan. The water would have taken him too, except the little mess tin hit a rock and spilled coals, and one landed on that webbed hand reaching for me and sizzled to black with a sound like meat on a skillet. The thing screamed in my friend's voice and in 1,000 voices and in no voice at all. We didn't swim out so much as the creek spat us onto a gravel spit out of annoyance. We laid there like seals, shaking and coughing and making dumb noises. The dog bit my sleeve and dragged like he had practiced this on boots. Doc crawled onto his knees and put his hand back over the fire pan even though it had nothing left. His copper bracelet burned a neat circle into his palm and he didn't move it. The knot, Hernandez paced the opposite bank, furious. The baby voices were gone. The trees were silent. The only sound was our gasping and the dog's growl, steady like a generator. "Give him back," I said through chattering teeth no one had asked to chatter. The thing stopped, tilted its head. "He's alive," it said, confused and insulted at once. "You're welcome. You stole him," Doc said. "You wear him." It sighed. "If a river can sigh, if a river can sigh, you would have frozen," it said. "You would have become ice and bone and worry." I made him light. It leaned forward, hungry again. "Let me make you light." "No," I said. The creek hissed laughter without bubbles. We hit the village like 3 drunks and one dog who knew better. The first man we saw was old enough to be stone. He sat on a porch sharpening a knife with a look like he'd been waiting for us. He didn't ask questions. He pointed at a 55-gallon drum with a burn going in it. He threw in cedar like a priest. Without a word, he took a coil of wire from a nail. Green, old. He wrapped it around our wrists like he was marrying us to the fire. He tied a loop around the dog's neck with a little copper bell no bigger than a fingernail. It chimed once, and the dog held still like he didn't want to waste the sound. "Don't go to the water," the old man said finally. "Don't answer your mothers. Don't follow your children's laughter. Don't piss against the wind." We did the other 3, Doc said. Touched fire. Wore copper. Trusted the dog. We pissed a ring. The old man barely smiled. "Good," he said. You remember fast. Behind him, 2 more people came out. A woman with hair like fishing line and a boy with a face that hadn't decided what stories to believe yet. The woman had copper discs on a thong around her neck. The boy had a birch torch that wasn't lit yet. The woman didn't look at the water. The boy looked too much. "Where's your friend?" the old man asked. He already knew. He asked anyway, maybe so we would hear ourselves say it. "Saved," I said, and the word tasted like pennies and shame. The old man spat neat into the dust. "That thing likes to say that," he muttered. He stood. "You sit. You get warm. You don't sleep. Men who sleep now don't wake up themselves." "We can't leave him," I said. It came out like a kid whining. I hated it. "You can," the old man said. "You can, and maybe you must. Or you can try to fetch him. But you don't do it like fools in stories. You don't follow voices. You make it come to you." "How?" Doc asked. "You light the thing it hates," the old man said. He tapped the drum with his boot. "You make a ring like your dog knows to make. You sing the songs only yours know. It will get mad. It will try tricks. It will ask for a different gain. You don't change the rules once they work. You hold." "Can we kill it?" I asked. The old man's face went empty the way old men's faces go when they remember something that taught them how to be quiet. "Maybe," he said, "but some things don't die like you expect. Some things die and leave a shape that keeps walking. Better to send it away with smoke and noise and teach it you are too much trouble." The boy handed me a bundle. Dry bark rolls, copper nails, a little bottle that smelled like stale pea. "From the dogs," the woman said. "They don't mind sharing." We went back to the creek edge with the whole village behind us. Not many people. Enough. Dogs in front like a line of little soldiers. Bells chiming, copper rings on straps. The old man walked right up to the water and spat again and said something in Tlingit that rolled like water over stones. I didn't know the words, but the shape of them felt like fences. We made our ring with torches. We had cedar smoke thick and sticky. We hammered copper nails into driftwood and tied wire into the branches like bad jewelry. We poured the bottle in a line that steamed in the cold. The smell would stay in my nose for a week, but it felt like a wall. Then we called, not by name. The old man warned us off that. "Don't say names over water. Names are bridges." We called him by stories instead. "Hey," I shouted into the wet quiet. "You who wear others. You who like voices. Come talk where we can see you. Come show us how polite you are." Doc added words his grandma would have smacked him for. The dog barked the bark that means, "Come and fight me if you think you're hard." The village dogs joined, small and brave, tails like banners. The bells on their collars made a squall that set my teeth buzzing. The creek showed us the shape the way oil shows rocks. A smear at first, then a dark, then a body rising where it should not stand. It came up slow, tall, very tired of pretending to be a thing it wasn't. It stood like a man on the surface where men sink. Its legs were wrong. Its arms too long. Its mouth too hungry. Its eyes, don't ask me to tell you about its eyes, I can't. They were what the sea looks like when the sky dies. That's the best I can do. "Hernandez," I said before I could stop myself. "Because I am weak. Because we all are." It made his face perfect, like nothing had ever happened. A small smile, the kind he wore when he had a good idea that was going to get us yelled at. "Sergeant," it said, "why are you doing this? You're hurting me." The old man struck the drum with a stick and made a note that made the creek think twice. The villagers started a chant with no melody, just a rhythm like feet on a deck. The dogs snarled with the beat. The thing reached to step over the line we had drawn. The copper sang all at once. The urine steamed. The fire popped hard as if it had been waiting. The thing jerked back like the air had teeth. "Bring him," I said. "You said he's alive. Bring him to the edge and I'll let you go." It smiled. Not nice. Not mean. Not mean. Just interested. "What will you trade?" it asked. "Nothing," I said. "You stole. You stole. You return." It blinked slow. The baby's cries started in the trees, softer now, as if they had a cold. The old man's chant got louder. The dog's bells were a wall. The copper on my wrist was hot. The thing tried a dozen different faces fast. My mother, My brother, Doc's grandma, a girl who looked like the idea of summer, the lieutenant, Top, the old man on the porch, which made the real old man laugh right in its borrowed face. That shook it. It didn't like being laughed at. A ripple moved up its side like a fish under ice. A shake came loose from it like a tooth from gum. It slapped the water and stood. It was my friend, and it wasn't. Naked. Shivering. Eyes clear for a blink, then drowned again. He took a step and hit the wall we'd made, and sagged like a hooked halibut against the line. He couldn't cross. Not on his own. Rules, Doc said, voice shredded. We hold the rules. I took a stick from a kid's hand and wrapped a copper wire on the end like a cheap spear. I warmed it in the fire until it glowed a little. I walked to the edge of our ring until the heat of it hit my face. Hernandez, I said. Listen to my voice. Not the other ones. Mine. Step when I say. Stop when I say. You copy? His head turned like slow glue. His eyes tried to find something to focus on. They landed on the dog. The dog wagged once. A good boy doing his job. Hernandez smiled with chattering teeth. Copy, he whispered. It came with bubbles. Water ran from his mouth. Not spit, not rain. Creek, okay, I said. One step. Now, he stepped. The creek pulled. The thing glared. The wall hissed where he pushed. The copper chimed. The chant hit a beat that matched his clumsy rhythm and held it up like a hand in the small of his back. Another, I said. Now. He stepped again. His foot hit the edge of the fire's heat and he gasped like he hadn't been warm in a year. His skin steamed a little. The thing hissed and leaned in and the dog surged and the bells went mad and the old man laughed again, because laughter is a weapon if you use it right. Blast one, I said. Now. He fell across the line. The dog grabbed his sleeve and pulled. Doc grabbed his other arm. I stuck the copper tip of the stick under his ribs where his heart should be, and I whispered a word I didn't know I knew. It burned. He screamed, not like a monster, like a man dragged back into a body half a second before it was time. The thing in the creek went quiet. The babies stopped. The women stopped. The lieutenant stopped. The brother stopped. The old man's chant filled the space left by all those dropped voices, and for a breath the world was only our noise. Then the thing showed us its last face. Not a trick, not a memory. Its own. And I will not describe it. Not to you, not to anyone. Just this. When you see what something really is, you think you will feel smart. You don't. You feel small. You feel like a door you thought was the whole house turns out to be just a flap in a tent you weren't invited into. It leaned back. It folded. It flowed like a spill of oil down a rock. It left. Not in a hurry, not scared. Annoyed. We were not easy, so decided to save someone else tonight. We dragged Hernandez to the drum. The woman with the copper discs put one on his chest and one on his forehead and one under his tongue. She whispered. He shook. He vomited water that smelled like leaves. He cried and then slept like he'd been shot with morphine. We did not cheer. We listened to the creak for footsteps that weren't there. We didn't file a report that said what happened. We filed one that said weather bad, river dangerous. Local assistance provided. One soldier recovered from cold exposure. Dog brave. That last part I insisted on. They let me have it. The dog's name, as far as the paper was concerned, was Dog. Top said nothing when he read it. He just stared like he was looking through fog at a thing. He told us to take a couple days. He handed us coffee and did not touch our wrists because he didn't want to feel the heat still there. Hernandez came back to himself slow. He slept a full day and woke asking for his daughter. And when we told him he'd see her soon, he cried like he didn't think he would, and the crying broke some ice inside all of us. He wouldn't go near the shower for a while. He washed with a kettle and a rag. He wore copper under his shirt like Doc. He tied bells on the doorknob to his room like a kid reading witch stories. We didn't tease him. We had bells on ours too. Doc's copper bracelet stained his wrist green forever. He said it was a rash. He said it itched. He did not take it off. Me? I keep 3 pennies in my left pocket, old ones, before they cheaped out. I rub them with my thumb when I get near water. I piss lines around tents like a weirdo. It's funny until it isn't. Sometimes, late, my radio clicks and a voice says my name, soft. Sometimes I answer without pushing the button with a whisper under my breath. Sometimes the voice sighs, sad and polite, and leaves. Sometimes it laughs. Sometimes I hear babies in the drain when the sink runs. I do not look. When I pass a drainage ditch with cattails, I go wide. When I drive over bridges, I don't spit, not even for luck. When someone says, "saved," my teeth hurt and I taste pennies. You want a moral? I don't have one. I have rules. Fire, copper, dogs, and keep your piss when you can. The old man would laugh to hear me say it like gospel. He'd spit and say, "You boys learned. Good, maybe you'll teach the dumb ones." The village was quiet when we left. The dog watched us go from the road. He didn't follow. He didn't need us. We weren't his to save. He was theirs. He had a job. We offered the old man money. He took none. He took a small brass bell from a nail and gave it to me. "For your door," he said. "For your ruck. For your heart. It'll follow?" I asked before I could stop. "If we leave," he shrugged. "Everything follows or waits. Same thing if you're the thing being followed." We drove out in trucks. The road felt shorter. The sky tried blue for a minute and then changed its mind. The crew in the cab told jokes I didn't hear. I watched the river every time the road came near it, and the river watched me back with a look like, "Next time maybe." Years later, I told this to a guy at a fire who said he liked ghost stories. He laughed, same as you want to laugh right now. He said, "Funny, soldiers believing in fairy tales." I said, "Yeah." Then I told him to bring a dog when he camps by moving water. He said, "Sure, man, sure." The way people say sure when they already forgot you. A month after that, I saw him at the PX with bells on his pack and a copper carabiner on his keyring. He didn't see me. He didn't have to. The story had done what stories do. It had crawled in and set up a little chair. Sometimes at night I hear a splash behind my eyes and my brother says my name, the way he used to when he wanted a ride. Sometimes I think I should step out and see what he needs. Most nights I waited out with my thumb on old pennies and the dog on my foot and the weight of a doorbell bell on the knob. The worst part, the part I won't ever drink out, is that the thing wasn't all wrong. He really would have frozen. He really would have died stupid, in water that doesn't care about you. The thing saved him its way. It kept him warm. It took him in. It wore him like a jacket. It called that kindness. I don't know what to call it. Theft, marriage, murder. Murder. Blessing. Mixed, someone said. As if you can pour two poisons together and hope for wine. If you go north enough, the world gets simple in a way people mistake for easy. Water, stone, wind, things that don't clap for you. You either learn the rules or you don't come back with your name. We came back. We kept our names. That cost things. Ask Doc about his sleep. Ask Hernandez about showers. Ask me about bridges. I still carry the bell. I still keep copper. I still tell this to kids who think monsters wear capes. Our monsters wear wet fur and good manners. And your mother's voice. They don't live under beds. They live in the places maps call blue and your bones call home. Now you know. Don't answer if something on the radio says your name's sweet. Don't follow a baby into trees. Don't trust laughter you can't place. And if you see prints that start as otter and end as bare feet, don't go looking to make sense of it. Sense is how they get you. Build a fire. Hold copper. Bring a dog. And for the love of whatever you pray to, don't step closer to the water when it asks. So that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. See you soon.